pretty interesting to look at Richard, just because in terms of looking at the different serial killers we've looked at, or psychopaths, he seemed very different in terms of, he was very stone faced, no eye contact, and there wasn't a lot of superficial charm, I thought. And when asked about his killings, he said things such as, "It doesn't bother me one way or another." There was no feeling about how he felt cutting someone up with a chainsaw. And, in terms of remorse, there was nothing that haunts him. And I also thought it was very interesting that if he had a choice, he wouldn't do it again. And he said he doesn't feel remorse or repentance, but I thought it was interesting that he does, feel that somewhat towards his family. And in terms of and when he talked about his friends, I thought it was pretty interesting too, that when talking about his friends, he said, "The only friend I know was someone I shared for 30 years, and he ended up, snitching on him, and now he's in prison." And I think that's where Richard's kind of trust issues come in, is that once he, grows attachment to somebody, they kind of screw him over, and that started very early on, which we see with many biological and environmental factors. I'm sure he had biological tendencies to be a psychopath, and I came up with him as a secondary psychopath. But from a very early age, he described his mom as cancerous, and that his father was beating him. And so from a very early age, there was no trust, and he basically became numb to those feelings, and that kind of just continued. And so I thought it was really beneficial to look at Richard because he was so much different than the other ones. And he said he never really got a feeling out of killing someone, and figured he was crazy. And it started with killing cats. And so it seemed that it was very progressive, and that Richard just had, unrealistic kind of end to this, and he just kept going and kept accelerating. And even when caught, it just further proved that, there was no empathy and that shallow affect. He goes, "These guys watch too many movies." And so this kind of just proves that Richard definitely has some issues in terms of realizing what he's doing, and having no empathy or understanding or forgiveness towards anything he's done.